Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to read you a book. It's called The Uncorker of Ocean Bottles. And this book is written by Michelle Cuevas and illustrated by Aaron E. Stead. Okay, here we go. The Uncorker of Ocean Bottles. The uncorker of ocean bottles lived alone on a high spot with only one tree for shade. He always kept his eyes on the waves, watchful for a glint of glass. He had a job of the utmost importance. It was his task to open any bottles found at sea and make sure they were delivered. Sometimes, to deliver a bottle, he needed only to stroll to the nearest village. Other times, he would journey until his compass became rusty and he felt loneliness as sharp as fish scales. There he is. Sometimes the messages were very old, crunchy like leaves in the fall. Sometimes the messages were written by a quill dipped in sadness. But most of the time they made people quite happy, for a letter can hold the treasure of a calm, hugged pearl. While the uncorker of ocean bottles loved his job, he couldn't help but wonder if he would ever receive a letter. Truth be told, each time he opened a bottle, a part of him hoped to see his own name winking from the top of the page. But then he remembered that this was about as likely as finding a mermaid's toenail on the beach. For he had no name, he had no friends. He stank of seaweed and salt and fishermen's feet. No one would ever write him a letter. Oh no. I think he must feel sad about that. But he still would have liked it just the same. I wonder why he has no name. One day, the waves tipped their white postman hats to the uncorker and delivered a bottle with a very peculiar letter inside. I'm not sure you will get this in time, but I am having a party. Tomorrow, evening tide at the Seahorse. Will you please come? Do you think he's going to go? Tristan thinks he will. Oh dear, said the uncorker. He had no idea who the letter was for or where to deliver it, but the truth was, he was very curious. He'd never been invited to a party before, and he suspected he might like to go. I think he might go. Who is going to be at the party? I wonder who. We don't know. First, he visited the maker of cakes. Pardon, said the uncorker, but do you recognize this print? The cake maker studied the note. Don't recognize the script, he finally said. But oh, how I love a seaside dance. Maybe they're both going to go. The uncorker moved on. He asked the candy shop owner. He asked a woman buying chocolate-dipped treats. He asked a young girl in a green dress. Sorry, each one sighed, though I do wish I'd received an invitation to such a party. The uncorker asked a seagull, a sailor, and a one-man band, but nobody could claim the letter. Nobody in the sky or sand or sea. The Uncorker felt very low. This was the first time he'd been unable to deliver a message. As he fell asleep that night, the Uncorker decided to go to the seashore the next day. He would go and apologize to the writer of the note. He is going to go. The Uncorker of ocean bottles arrived early, carrying a handful of his favorite seashells. He thought it might be rude to show up uninvited and empty-handed. The seahorse was draped in seaweed and starfish. Candles floated in clamshells. There were sand sculptures and umbrellas. "It's you," said the maker of cakes. "How grand," said the candy shop owner. The other guests had arrived already. A woman, a girl in a green dress, a seagull, a sailor, and a one-man band. And there they all are. When the girl in green asked the Uncorker of ocean bottles to dance, he said, "I'm not sure I know how, but I'd like to just the same." As they spun across the beach to the water's edge and back again, everyone smiled and kept the beat. The Uncorker's heart was a glass vessel filled to the brim. As the stars began to arrive, and the moon as well, the Uncorker took out the bottle he had been unable to deliver. "Perhaps," he said, his mouth full of cake. Perhaps I shall try to deliver this again tomorrow."
No, you shouldn't.
Maybe he's going to make another party if he tries to deliver the note again.
Maybe.
All right, we hope you enjoyed our book.